Rivalries, sleek cars, and record-breaking speed. That's all most of us care about on the NASCAR tracks nowadays. But if you lived in the 90s, you'll be glad automakers dropped these ugly and boring car designs for sleek and cool cars. Here are the 10 ugliest NASCAR cars ever. Number 1. The AMC MATADOR. We should thank automakers for refining their sense of style because this AMC MATADOR from the 1970s is unflattering. American Motors Corporation manufactured the vehicle between 1971 and 1978 in a 2-door hardtop and coupe versions and 4-door sedan and station wagon body styles. The NASCAR AMC MATADOR was from the first generation, which focused on the family market and was also offered in performance versions. When it was first used in a high-bank Southern Speedway in the Daytona 500, many people made fun of it, maybe because it looked like a family car. The only good thing was that the AMC won 5 races over 3 years in the mid-1970s, thanks to world-class drivers Mark Donohue and Bobby Allison, and pioneering features like 4-wheel drive brakes. AMC abandoned the Matador project in 1978, and Chrysler acquired the company 10 years later. Number 2. The Chrysler Impala. Before the Lamborghini, there was the Chrysler Impala. Trust me, it wasn't pretty. As a matter of fact, it looked like an updated version of the AMC. In the early 1980s, Chrysler offered 2 full-size coupes, the Dodge Merida and the luxurious Chrysler Impala. The Impalas debuted towards the end of the 1982 NASCAR season in only 2 races. Buddy Arrington drove a 1981 Dodge Mirada throughout the 1981 and 1982 NASCAR seasons. He switched between the Mirada and the Impalas in 1983 after earning 8th in overall points in 1982. Buddy Arrington competed in the Winston Cup Stock Car Series with 2 1981 Chrysler Impalas. Although Chrysler did not sponsor him, maybe because they were more concerned with selling Sinatra editions of the Luxo barge than publicizing its top 10 NASCAR points performance, Buddy finished 7th in the NASCAR point standings during the 1982 season. Number 3. 1981 Monte Carlo, or should I say, Monster Carlo. The Chevrolet Monte Carlo raced in NASCAR from the early 1970s until it was discontinued in 1988. Richard Petty's Dodge and Plymouth dominated the early 1970s until Carl Yarbrough's Monte Carlo won 3 consecutive Winston Cup championships between 1976 and 1978. In 1986, NASCAR Chevrolet drivers asked for a more aerodynamic version of the Monte Carlo SS. Chevrolet agreed. Just like that, the short-nosed SS Aero Coupe was born in all his weirdness. Dale Earnhardt, who won the title in 1986 and 1987, was a big benefactor of this change. He went on to claim 4 more Winston Cup Drivers' Championships, as well as the nickname the Intimidator. The Monte Carlo returned for the 1995 season with the 5th-generation body. However, NASCAR demanded the vehicle to have bigger rear quarter panels, deviating from the factory sheet metal that race-spec cars had to use then. The 1995 body type was a fan favorite on the NASCAR circuit and won multiple NASCAR manufactured cup races before being phased out of manufacturing in 2007. Number 4. Tucker Torpedo. Good thing this car company didn't last, because they clearly didn't care about the aesthetics on the tracks, just performance. Maybe. From the side, this race car looks like a cockroach doing squats, and I'm not even exaggerating. You can see for yourself. Preston Tucker conceived the Tucker Torpedo to demonstrate cutting-edge safety features, drivetrain design, and styling beyond the Detroit mainstream. Unfortunately, only 51 of these cars, including the prototype, were produced before the company declared bankruptcy. The original suggested price for the Tucker was $1,000, but the actual selling price was closer to $4,000. The Torpedo, however, was a prototype, and the name was never used for the production model, which was officially known as the Tucker 48. Tucker 1004, a gray automobile, was delivered to Tucker's Pittsburgh distributor before being sold to Red Harris, who owned a used car business. Joe Morella of Wilkinsburg, whose brother owned a similar used car shop, was granted permission to race the Tucker in the Poor Man's 500 in 1951. Fortunately, Tucker broke an axe on the pace lap and never officially started. I'd say good riddance, but I don't want to be mean. Number 5. Number 777, Marty Robbins' Plymouth Belvedere. I know you love Marty Robinson and his music, but let's talk about his famous race car, the number 777 Plymouth Belvedere. Country music legend Marty Robbins had the glorious number 777 Plymouth Belvedere, which he used to compete in a total of 35 NASCAR races with 6 top 10 finishes, including a 5th place showing at Michigan in the 1974 Motor State 400. But the car is a big turnoff. The vehicle looks like something from a child's cartoon novel or the type of car toddlers draw on paper. The yellow and purple color scheme make it even worse. The Plymouth Belvedere was manufactured by Chrysler Australia, and its first model, based on the 1953 Plymouth, had a high amount of Australian content, with body panels pressed in Chrysler Australia's Keyswick factory in South Australia, and paired with a side-valve 6-cylinder engine. In 1960, Chrysler Australia introduced Dodge Phoenix to replace the Plymouth Belvedere, Dodge Custom Royal, and the DeSoto Fire Suite models. Good choice, Chrysler. Number 6. 1987 Ford Thunderbird stock. Bill Elliott set NASCAR's all-time speed record with this car when he qualified for the 1987 Winston 500 at Talladega at 212.809 miles per hour. Underneath this Thunderbird sheet metal is a purpose-built steel tube frame, racing suspension and brakes, and a racing engine that no Ford dealer ever sold. But that is not what this video is about. Why is this car so unattractive? It looks like one of the characters from cartoons. It's not ugly, it's funny, and I wonder how it got to the NASCAR circuit in the first place. Such a joke. Number 7. 1970 Dodge Daytona Plymouth Superbird. First of all, what on earth is going on in that front part of this car? It looks like the engineers forgot to add headlights, so they carved something and fixed it there. And not to mention the giant wings, were they mimicking a bird or something? The Plymouth Superbird is a modified version of the Plymouth Roadrunner. It was the factory's follow-up stock car racing design for the 1970 season to the Dodge Charger Daytona of 1969. The company incorporated many engineering changes and modifications from Daytona's season. But why? In 1968, when Richard Petty left the Plymouth NASCAR racing team for Ford, the team designed the Superbird specifically to lure Petty back to Plymouth for the 1970 season. And it worked. Serious aerodynamics were just starting to become a thing in NASCAR racing, and the Superbird was the ultimate aero warrior. It won 33 out of 48 races, with 18 being Petty's. Wow, those ugly wings really got the job done. Number 8. 1998 Ford Taurus. There's something about this car that makes it look angry. Oh, I get it. It's the headlights. You know when something upsets you so bad, but you can't vent your anger? That is the face. The 1998 Ford Taurus actually debuted in 1985 as a 1986 model and looked very elegant. Taurus derives its name from the Latin word bull, which is intended to mean that it is extremely powerful. Ford sold over 7 million Taurus vehicles throughout its 20-year production run. In 1998, the vehicle was modified and the grille was somewhat altered with the addition of a horizontal bar into the mouth, and the orange taillights were replaced with clear lenses. The second-generation airbags were replaced with safer ones that were designed to reduce the chance of airbag-related injuries. Pretty safe, but ugly. Number 9. 1986 Oldsmobile Delta. This car looks nothing like what should be found on a NASCAR racetrack. Take off the color scheme and it's just plain and boring with the ugliest of headlights I've ever seen. Oops, the designer didn't take his time on this one. The Oldsmobile 88 series was an image leader for Oldsmobile, especially from 1949 to 1951, when it was one of the best performing automobiles due to its small size, lightweight, and advanced overhead valve high compression V8 engine. For the 1986 model, the Delta 88 Royale switched platforms from the GMB platform to the smaller front-wheel drive H platform. A few NASCAR teams built race cars with it and ran them on the circuit between 1986 and 88. But it only won once thanks to Terry Labonte, who defeated Harry Gant by 0.63 seconds in 1986 Goodwrench 500. In 1987, the headlights changed from square seal beam quads to integrated regular beam composite lamps. I don't know who told them, but that was actually a great idea. Number 10. The 1994 Pontiac Grand Prix. You may not spot the problem immediately, but if you look closely, the 1994 Pontiac Grand Prix looks like a king cobra going after its next meal on the racetrack. I wouldn't want to race on this guy or even around him. The Grand Prix was introduced as a full-size performance coupe for the 1962 model year. It was the first expensive coupe Pontiac offered until the 1970s, when the Bonneville Brougham and the Firebird Trans Am became more exclusive. The 1994 Grand Prix went through a mid-generation facelift inside and out, and it ruined everything. They added a new front and rear fascia plus new ground effects, which is shocking because in the late 90s, race car companies were very big on improving aerodynamics, but Pontiac didn't seem to care. Well, the result was this nasty-looking wreck.